Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the After Maghrib podcast, your favorite Shia podcast. Of course, brothers and sisters, you will know as well as I that over the last few weeks we've been focusing on our knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, a lot of facets of their lives, not just the historical element or the spiritual element, but also in a contemporary fashion, and also looking forward in the future, understanding how the lessons learned from the Holy Quran and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam play a direct role in our own lives today. So this is a theme we want to continue in these blessed days, and inshallah today we're going to do that. We're going to be talking about the Raj'ah, which of course is a really hot topic in general, and something which I think a lot of us as a community lack foundational knowledge on. We'll also be talking about the Ghayba of our current Imam, Imam al-Hujjah, Ajjallahu ta'ala faraj al-Sharif, and ways in which we can connect with the Holy Imam throughout the period of Ghaybatun Kubra. So it gives me great pleasure as always, and no surprise at all to you, to introduce my wonderful co-host Sayed Ali Radawi. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing, brother?
Alhamdulillah, seeing you week in, week out makes life better, makes life easier. I'm not even joking, by the way.
Thank you.
We learn a lot, and I love the conversations we're having throughout the Muslim Haram al-Safar, and today is no different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had like some fascinating guests over the last few weeks, and everyone at home will know that we have some guests who are close to our heart and who are brothers and teachers to us, and we're really honored to have back with us who was with us during the first 10 nights of Muharram, none other than our dear brother Sayed Abdullah al Nakeeb. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for having me again. Got there.
Ya Allah.
Yeah, Ali.
Alhamdulillah. Nice to have you on. This is your fourth appearance.
It is preceded by one other.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali is part of the team, of course. That's who you are.
Habibi, absolute honor.
Inshallah, we'll have a fifth.
Inshallah.
I know Ahmed said special guest. I don't think you're a guest. We're the guests. And
Last
this is your podcast.
Without a doubt. We learn from you, and we're honored to say you're part of our team.
Habibi.
Sayyid, I know obviously this is a topic which we've been speaking about a lot in the days preceding this conversation. Why do you feel it's so important to talk about this?
So the topic of Raj'ah, I don't think is explored as much as other. I mean, there is a lot of topics that aren't really given their due right from the pulpits through discussions, and you find, because we don't mention them so much during like a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year gap, that the people that are developing through listening to the majalis, they don't really come into contact with it, and as such, when it's mentioned to them at a older age, you'll find that we're like, well, I've never really heard about this particular topic or that particular topic. And I think Raj'ah, because of its intricacy, I find that it isn't being spoken about as much. But I think speakers do have their reasonings behind it. But I think because it's intricate, it might not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, because there's a lot of question marks around it, as well as it's in that realm of really needing to have a solid foundation of aqa'id before you can explore it, because many people that can delve into it without having a fundamental understanding, I think would really find it difficult to comprehend and to understand the the different foundations that are laid before this topic comes into fruition, basically. So when it does occur, which we'll speak about later on, inshallah. That made sense.
Why would you say, no, it does make sense, but why would you say it's difficult for speakers to articulate it, let's say?
See,
because is it fair on us not to know about it?
Sorry?
Is it fair on us? Yeah,
that's what we're discussing, isn't it? Yeah. No, but the thing is, as a discussion now, it's going to be very different from a pulpit perspective. Because from pulpit perspective, I might think about it, when I speak to the people, I think that this is the piece of knowledge that I think is enough for you to learn this particular topic. But then people have a lot of questions. And that's why a conversation, which is uncensored, we should say, but like there's no limitations. We can go back and forth. You may have questions that viewers would have or listeners would have, and then that way we can, not often do we see the questions that are there before having the lecture. So we give the lecture, then people have the question, like, hold on, maybe this wasn't explained properly, or this is the first time I hear about this particular incident, event, personality, theory, whatever have you. So to have the discussion is kind of like, point blank, this is what may be a question mark on certain particular areas for Raj'ah. So I think that's what I found to be interesting, because I remember, to be completely honest, the first time I came across Raj'ah, I remember I was like, as many people do with new things that you haven't heard for years, when you come across it, you're like, hold on, what's the foundations behind this? Is this something that is widely accepted? Is this something that is problematic with all the rules and regulations that we do have established within the Quran and the Hadith? Or is it something not established and we just have to believe in it? So that's where we begin to have the discussion, and it's I think it'll be quite an interesting discussion.
So we've been obviously speaking now for a few minutes about Raj'ah. There's someone at home is saying, what is it Raj'ah? So how would you define it in a very simple sense?
Raj'ah, the word actually comes from the return. So if in Arabic, you guys would both know, if someone goes somewhere, let's say from point A to point B, and he comes back, you can say Aada or Raj'ah. So Raj'ah is technically the return, but the concept of Raj'ah, to go straight into the deep end, is the understanding that after Imam Mahdi Ajala Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif comes, there will be a return of people after they have died, return back to this world, the best of the best and the worst of the worst. Man mahadha al-imana mahdha wa man mahadha al-kufra mahdha. So you have those two different people that will come back in this aspect of the return. And that's the whole discussion, that when we have this return of the best of the best, is it inclusive of our imams? Is it not inclusive of our imams? Is it inclusive of the people that preceded all the way to Adam, or is it not? What is the reasoning behind it? And if so, and we accept it from the traditions, can we prove it? Not just from the hadith, which we have, a vast abundance of, but can we prove this concept from the Holy Quran, which is more important, because that's the main basis, the thaqalain. So I think that's, if we discuss it through that angle, it will be grounded more so and more accepted. So
this is, of course, something which is not accepted by the madhab of the Sunnis. They don't believe in Raj'ah. It's not something which they agree with or even discuss. From the perspective of the Shia, from amongst the ulama, of course, as you mentioned, there is discussion. There's some works on it, which is good. But amongst the people, the population, we may unknowingly reference Raj'ah. So, for example, Du'a Ahad and whatnot. We talk about the return and being amongst those who return to serve the Imam and the cause of the Imams, alayhim as-salam. Why do you think it's something which is, if you don't mind me asking, really upfront, Sayed, do you think that it's something which can be understood on a very basic or foundational level, or is it something which is appropriate for those who have studied Islam and who are ready for the technical, because it is very technical, and beyond that as well, there's a lot of things in it which may confuse people. So the years of things that I mentioned, so the governance of the holy imams and how many years that lasts, which imams come back in which order and whatnot, these things may confuse people.
So I think even like him mentioning that, people I think at home will be like, what do you mean our imams are coming back? Do you know what I mean? So that, because that's, I think that'll surprise a lot of people. But yeah, look, the discussion does have many branches, but at the base value, I think what we're going to inshallah achieve by the end of this episode is laying those core foundations. There are a lot of technicalities that I think is for a different audience in the sense of its intricacies,
right?
And we're talking about intricacies, such as when there people that are evil return, how then does the judgment system work? Are their books open or have they been closed since they died? What is the purpose of them returning? What happens to those that return that are good and that have died in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So these intricate, more higher level discussions, I don't think will be, we wouldn't do it justice if we were to speak on it, within the limited times that we do have right now. But to lay the foundation of how we can prove it through the Quran and through the Hadith, I think tonight would be a good starting point for anyone that wants to even do further research. Because, as, let's say, those that are trying to speak for the religion or our vessels to carry the message, we often find ourselves falling into the trap of trying to spoon feed absolutely everything with religion. But rather, I think what we need to focus on is creating that spark of interest. Because what you want to do is allow people to develop, to go and do their own reading, own research, find their own attachment. Like, we'll give as much as we can, but without that spark, you're not really going to go out and research about something, or you're going to learn about something, or want to understand the concept more, lest you have an aspect that you want to connect in a certain way, or a question that you may not have had the answer to and you want the answer to. So that can be developed, So if we were to say, going into it, how can we answer questions about this particular concept of Raj'ah? So the first question would come forward like, okay, so you're saying that the concept of Raj'ah means that people that have died in this world, they're going to return at the time of Imam Mahdi, the best of the best and the worst of the worst. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, do we have a basis for people that died to return back to this world? Do we have a basis from the Holy Quran?
Of course.
So that's the first discussion. And then when we delve into it, you begin to see there are many occasions within the Quran that not, because as Muslims, one of the fundamental understandings is mi'ad. Mi'ad, we all believe in resurrection, but the resurrection there is speaking about the hereafter, not this world. So the question is, the resurrection in Raj'ah will be resurrection in this world, not the hereafter.
But not for everyone.
Not for everyone. Ahsant. Ahsant. So amongst the Quranic verses we come many stories, subhanallah. Take the story of Ibrahim, for example, when he says to Allah, "Oh Allah, show me how you resurrect the dead." Then, do you not believe? He goes, "No, but I want to increase in certainty." So, he gets the 4 different birds. He gets, peacock, crow, dove, and pigeon. And the interesting thing is Allah says, cut them up into pieces and mix the pieces together. Not like separate, no, mix them all together. Place them on mountains and call, for example, the crow. You'll see the pieces of the crow will come in front of you and you'll formulate as it's arriving. Call the dove, call the pigeon, call the peacock. They will form in front of your eyes, that they will become alive once more after their death. Someone come like, okay, but we're talking about human resurrection. Resurrection, let's talk about it in a human perspective. So he goes, okay. Amongst the ones that we understand is, let's say, go towards the story of Musa alayhi salam. Musa, when the people come forward and say, "Oh Musa, I want to see your Lord." And Allah says, "Lan tarani," you won't be able to see me. You can't even look at the sun. You want to look at me. So he's like, come. Takes him to the mountain, and the verse in question speaks very clearly. The sa'iqah, the storm, the lightning, whatever you want to translate it into, occurred, they all died. 70 of them in the tradition all died. And Musa's like, if I return and they're all dead, they're going to, be accused. So the Quran says, after they died, Allah resurrected them. So there's humans. You have the story of Azra wa Uzair, the 2 brothers, that they lived at one time, and one of the brothers, which was a prophet, goes past a synagogue that was demolished. He says, "Anna yuhyi hadha?" Can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala return this? And so he was with his donkey, and the tradition goes on to say that he went inside to break bread and have water. Died for 100 years, then returned. Then he's asked, how long have we slept? A day or part of it then. Comes, he sees his donkey outside, but what was left was like bone. So Allah showed him how on that donkey itself the flesh would form, and on it in front of his eyes. He was resurrected. In front of him, he saw resurrection. The story of Musa with the reason why it's called Surah Al-Baqarah, the man that dies, and they ask, resurrect him in order for us to see who killed him, because there was two tribes fighting amongst each other. It says, resurrect him, he'll tell you if you're a prophet of God. So Allah brings down that, bring a cow, and then they, sometimes Allah makes it easy for us, but sometimes we make it hard for ourselves.
Yeah.
So Allah's like, bring a cow. They're like, what kind of cow? How big? How small? Until they, okay, you want more questions? I'll give you more. Until it was a yellow cow that they had to find. There's only going to find a yellow cow. Got a yellow cow. It says, hit it into one another. Is resurrected after his death. And then he tells the people who his murderer was. So we find these things, throughout the Quran. There's so many different ones that we begin to understand that there's a resurrection. Like, for example, Isa. He's known for it. Yeah. Known for resurrecting the dead. And, as we were discussing before, the dead, sometimes we think to ourselves, did they just die, or were they years? And so the discussion that was concerning death and resurrection, many of the books discuss Isa coming to a grave that is fresh, like they just buried him. Youth, just buried him. And he would resurrect him. But when he's resurrected as a old man. So what happened? Tell me. He goes, I'm not in the Jannah of Barzakh, I'm in the Jahannam of Barzakh. And so the aspect of torture is, even though it's a little bit for you, but it feels like a long time that he's basically aged from the pain and suffering that he went through that short time period. Maybe time frames work very differently within Barzakh as they do for us, maybe. And likewise, they said that he came across a grave that we didn't even recognize that it was a grave. And he resurrected that person, and it was like a youth. And he says, what's going on? He goes, Oh Ruh Allah. He goes, I came into this realm and I ripped a necklace and it fell, all the pearls everywhere. I'm trying to collect him, and then you've resurrected me. So they didn't even recognize his grave. So the discussion is there.
Wow. Yeah.
The discussion is there. That resurrection in this realm exists.
Yeah.
So that's the first discussion. So we've established the first fundamental, that we say that the Raj'ah happens, that it returns towards this world. Is there a Quranic basis for it?
Yeah.
It is. So now let's discuss, is there a Quranic basis of people being resurrected before, hereafter? In order for us to know, is there a Quranic basis for it? So when you go towards verses from the Holy Quran, there's verses that come forward and discuss mi'ad, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we will bring everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. Yeah. And there are discussions that says Allah will return only a group of people. Not everyone. We know Qiyamah, if we were discussing Qiyamah, everyone's resurrected, aren't they? But when it comes to Raj'ah, there's only a group of people. Man mahadal imana mahda wa mahadal kufra mahda. Yeah? So with that discussion, go towards the Holy Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, to give you an understanding of the mi'ad resurrection. وَيَوْمَ نُسَيِّرُ الْجِبَالِ وَتَرَى الْأَرْض بَارِزَةً وَحَشَرْنَاهُمْ فَلَمْ نُغَادِرْ مِنْهُمْ أَحَدًا. So Allah saying, and the day when we will remove the mountains and you will see the earth prominent, and we will gather them and not leave behind from them anyone. Ma'ad, understandable that the Yawm al-Qiyamah, everything that occurs, that every single person will be resurrected. Now, also within the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Naml, وَيَوْمَ نَحْشُرُ مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ فَوْجًا. So, okay, now it's saying that on the day, much like I said before, we will gather from every nation. Not every nation, from. Not the entire
That's
nation.
not literal, obviously.
From every nation.
As in, yeah.
Not like every single nation that existed. From every nation could mean those
Parts of, or like, represent.
Ahsant. But the understanding there is it's a part. It's not the complete. So there you have a premise already for the fact that there is a resurrection for a partial resurrection, and there's a resurrection for a complete resurrection, which gives us the second grounds for this concept of Raj'ah. So now, let's look at this concept. We come and say that we're going to bring the best of the best and the worst of the worst. What else can we understand from the governorship? So now we understand every single person has been oppressed. Every prophet oppressed. Rasulullah, so we're going to go into the discussion of how he died. You know, ma minna illa masmumun aw maqtul, different discussion. But Amir Mu'mineen, if we were to say he's the one that had governorship, 4.5 years, 3 civil wars, comes into the masjid, he says, you know, don't pray like this, pray like this.
Peak of oppression.
Literally, yeah. So it's like, who are you to tell us, you know? Like he says, no, Rasulullah established this law for Salah, not that law. And they would say in all 4 corners of Kufa, wa sunnata Umara. Because why are you trying to change the sunnah of Umar? So in that 4.5 years, if you say that he was a governor, how much time did he really have to establish with 3 civil wars and everything that was happening around him? So much so that he was killed in Salah. So we see that throughout. Every single one of our imams didn't really have a chance, did they, to establish justice and eradicate tyranny.
Sayyid, can I ask,
Bismillah.
Chronologically,
Yes.
at what stage does the Raj'ah occur? So obviously the whole of the Imam happens.
Yes.
Do we have any understanding as to when it happens? Is it after the death of the Holy Imam? Is it before? You know, these are all things which I think come to my mind.
Definitely. No, that's a very valid question, because we have, like you stated earlier, Du'a al-Ahad. What do we say? If we die, then, and we are not able to come to your assistance, فأخرجني من قبري مؤتزرا كفني شاهرا سيفي مجردا قناتي ملبيا دعوة الداعي. So all this says, oh Allah, if I die, I want you to allow me to be resurrected alongside. Alongside the Imam. So the first instance is, we know that people will arrive with the Imam to assist him in performing all that he needs to do. So amongst them, which only moments ago we heard, Salman is known to be one of them. In traditions, Ashab al-Kahf are known to be one of them. Many of the prophets would come back to be assisting. And so you have these, which obviously formulate the best of the best and the worst of the worst, that will arrive. Now there's different stages. So we'll see that some people will arrive at the arrival of the Imam. Some people after his death. So, and the understanding is, so subhanAllah, there's a verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضِ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Now, if we were to say that someone will inherit this world, someone that will be able to establish justice and eradicate tyranny. So the ayah would have said, أَنَّ الْأَرْضِ يَرِثُهَا عَبْدِيَ الصَّالِحُ. Singular. That this one person will establish justice and eradicate tyranny. But why now does the verse say, يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ?
More than one. Yeah.
One goes, next comes. One goes, next comes, until they establish ibadi, plural. Now, just to go back on one other point before we go to the cream of the discussion. It says, قالوا ربنا أمتنا اثنتين وأحييتنا اثنتين. What does that mean?
Killed us twice.
Oh Allah, you've killed us or caused us to die twice, and you've resurrected us twice.
Yeah.
So now you can already see. Twice we died, twice we were resurrected. Now the interesting discussion is, which I want to touch on, and this is, I think, the highlight when I came across this tradition, which absolutely blew my mind. And I really think it would touch chords in people's minds and people's hearts. Really touch chords in people's hearts. Zurara, we know who Zurara is. And how close he was with Imam Sadiq. He comes towards Imam Sadiq. Look at the question. He goes, oh Imam, is death the same as being killed? Because you ask someone, what's qatl? So, to die.
Yeah.
You say maut. What's maut?
Death.
Death.
Yeah.
So Zurara looks at him, Imam Sadiq looks at Zurara and says, Zurara, absolutely no. He goes, ليس الموت كالقتل ولا القتل كالموت. How does he know? He goes, Allah said it in the Holy Quran. أفإن مات أو قتل. I'm talking about Rasulullah. If he dies or is killed. أفإن مات أو قتل.
So what does the hadith mean?
It's coming to it, to the end.
Patience.
Yeah.
He's already lost him.
Being a non-Arab.
Wait till I. So he comes to Zurara. Does Zurara comes to the Imam. He says, "Is maut and qatl the same thing?"
Yeah.
So is death and being killed the same thing? He goes, "No. Allah differentiated it in the Holy Quran. In the Holy Quran, it talks about Rasulullah says, "Afa immata aw qutil." If he dies or is killed, it's a difference. But look at the next thing that he says that re-establishes the Raj'ah. Yeah, he says, whomever has tasted being killed need to come back to taste death. Why?
كل نفس ذائقة.
Ahsant. Allah says in the Holy Quran, everyone that is, he says in accordance to this, everyone that is killed has to come back to taste death, because those that have tasted death, have tasted being killed, haven't tasted death.
As in natural death? Or
That's Imam has this premise, but he's saying the people that are killed haven't tasted death.
Right.
Allah's premise in the Quran is what? Whomever has been killed, tasted being killed, have to come back, because the premise, what does it say? Kullu nafsin da'iqatul. Every soul shall taste death. But the souls that have tasted being killed haven't tasted death. That's why it says, لا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله. Those, do not count those that have been killed in the path of Allah as dead.
Yeah.
Nay, they are alive. So he's saying everyone that has been killed
All makes sense.
needs to come back to taste death. So you see how it's all of a sudden begins to establish. It's got you,
Yeah.
So just imagine that tradition, yeah? And this is the intricacies of these issues. So we understand now that amongst those that have been killed on the path of Allah, they have to return to taste death. What do we usually refer to them as? The people that are killed in the path of Allah. Shuhada. No. Let's establish something. So you're saying the shuhada are those that
Die in the way of Allah.
die of Allah. They have to come back to taste
Death.
If we're taking this tradition, have to come back to taste death. Now, shuhada. Oftentimes we come across this shuhada. What does it mean?
Yeah, I think we know as martyrs.
Martyrs, yeah? But if you go to the root word, shuhada, where does it come from? Shaheed. Make it the root letters. Shaheed.
I don't know.
Shahada.
Okay.
Shahada.
Is it?
It's like
Shahada, shuhada, to bear witness.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so why now do we, if we were to take that translation of it, yeah? If you're a shaheed, you're known as a martyr, but if you go to the root word, it means you bear witness.
Yeah.
Can we suggest the fact that, according to this tradition, that a person that is killed, known as a shaheed, returns
To witness death.
to witness the establishment of Allah's mercy on this earth?
Okay.
And then he tastes death, of course. But he comes back to witness Allah's mercy on this earth, because it establishes justice and eradicates tyranny. That's why they have the hierarchy that you are, because you died in my path, be the first to witness.
So does this mean that anyone who's shuhada is part of this?
It's an established aspect where that is definitely a premise. And now the interesting thing is, amongst the first that returns is who?
the kuffar.
Imam Hussein is known as?
Say the
Say the shuhada.
Huh?
Yeah.
Salatu wassalam.
Huh?
Makes sense. But he's some reports say he's the first to return.
Yeah, that's it. There's different things that
Ties in.
Huh?
All starting to make sense.
as kind of.
Yeah, it's clicking.
It is working. It's making sense. My brain is kind of.
But it's getting there.
It's clicking. But of course, over the
I'm
course of
thinking
history,
now-
there's been there's been tens of thousands of shuhada. More than that.
How many evil people do we have? Man mahadha al-imana mahdha wa man mahadha al-kufra
That's
mahdha.
why I want to go to the
Who's to say?
Why are they
Technically,
returning?
who? Now we're getting to the gist of it. So these people died, and they died thinking that I've done everything that I needed to do, and I didn't see on this earth Allah's justice. I got away with everything. So Allah's returning them to say, you know what? I'm going to let you bear witness that I have the final say in everything, to create more of a pain for your soul and a punishment that you're going to see everything that you thought that you had, that you could get away with. Look at how I prevail over all evil doers and all tyrants. So they come back. And you begin to see that, Imam, and that's the interesting thing, because that's why I said, if you go into the context of Aqeedah, we know that a person that is ma'soom is not able to be buried except by a ma'soom. So when Imam Mahdi dies, Imam Hussein has to, and the tradition say that he will bury Imam Mahdi where? In his own shrine, in his own grave. So Imam Mahdi will be buried now in Karbala. So you take these traditions, and then the understanding now is there's different traditions that are there. Who will kill Iblis?
Who will kill Iblis?
So there's traditions that suggest Imam Mahdi will be responsible for killing Iblis. Then there are traditions that suggest that no, after Imam Mahdi, Imam Hussein comes, then Ali, then all the Imams, until Rasulullah returns and kills Iblis in the final war. So there are so many different traditions, and that's where it becomes very interesting and intricate.
So say for those people at home who are listening to this, probably following and understanding, but in some way this may sound very animated to them. You see what I mean?
Sounds like something out of a
Lord of the Rings or something.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I really don't mean to be disrespectful.
I completely understand.
You see what I mean, right?
No, of course.
For a lot of them, it's like in terms of the final war and the return and avenging the blood that was spilt in the years prior. But for these are the two questions I have. Number one, what are the qualities which someone who is to return with the Holy Imam, what are those qualities that they should have? And number two, is it imperative to be conscious of the Raj'ah now kind of into the period which we live in now during the Ghayba of the Imam? Should we consciously think about the Raj'ah when we talk to the Imam, when we converse with the Imam? Do we say, allow me to return if I die before?
Yep.
Do you see what I mean? Before your return, allow me to be raised amongst your Ansar.
So the ahad is well established for us. You know, it's one of the most recommended things to do in the mornings, that you reaffirm that, oh Imam, I am going to do everything as an allegiance. Every time you wake up in the morning, you know what you're setting out to do during your day is to remember that you are wanting to become of the companions of the Imam. Now, if for whatever reason happens, if you really had that love for your Imam, you're saying, I want to live my life in such a way that everything I do, I want you to look at it saying that I'm proud for you to be of my companions. And if for whatever reason death separates between you and your Imam, that Allah is able to resurrect you. And like many of our traditions, sometimes we read our traditions, but we don't often contemplate over it. Ziyarat al-Jama'a, Warith. You know, we say this particular phrase, but many of us don't understand it. You know, bikum mu'min, wa bi iyabikum muqin. Many times we come across this, but people come across it like, wa bi iyabikum muqin. Okay, but it says Imam's trying to establish, make sure that you understand this concept that we are returning. Iyab means the return. Muqin means not just I have knowledge of. Muqin, yaqeen. I have certainty in your return. So when you ask the question, should I understand this concept or is it a fairy tale? Imams established it within our du'at, how we supplicate is like, make sure that when you supplicate, you're saying, that I have certainty, not just, lip service. So to answer your question, we need to understand it. We need to learn about it. We need to see the reasoning why we need to look. Because, sometimes, and it's going to sound very interesting, the advents leading up to Rasulullah.
Yeah.
The advents, so there was so many signs to showcase people about that this prophet is the final prophet that will be arriving. And that's why you'll find when you go to Medina, who was waiting for him? The Jews were waiting for him. Why? Because it was always prophesied. The advents were there, the scriptures were there, the detailed prophecies from previous prophets were there to establish that, yes, prepare yourself for Rasulullah. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Is the final notion of all these prophecies just the arrival of Rasul, or what he brought forward as a message?
Of course, the latter.
So they're saying the arrival of the Imam isn't just the main. He goes, the main beauty and the body of the Imam arriving is
his message and what he brings.
the Raj'ah. Is going to be, when it's established, the justice, they will carry on.
Yeah.
That establishment. So that's a whole different, like I said, but because let's be honest.
Sayyid Ali, we referenced this obviously a few weeks ago with Sheikh Muhammad Abbas Panju, and he talked about the establishment of the whole civilization, how it will need the right people. There's a link here.
I'm getting flashbacks for sure, because as the Sheikh was referencing, when he was mentioning that when Imam Mahdi comes, AjAllah Ta'ala Faraj Sharif, it's as if he's bringing a new system. It's as if he's reformed
100%
society completely. And Sayyid, as you're speaking about all of this, I'm just trying to imagine, like, what are other people thinking? Because
probably the same thing I was thinking when I first read it. It's just like
the thing is, I think for an average,
it's an interesting one.
I think for an average human being, like, to understand this average Muslim.
Look, I think honestly, when you begin to read it, like, it intrigues a lot of people. Like, I was intrigued. Like, I first read it, I was like, this is something new. I was 17, 18 at the time. I was just like, this is something amazing within our literature that I've never heard it from the pulpit. And so you go on to this.
Yeah.
Because let's say for Imam Mahdi, Ajala Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, if you ask a normal Shia, how do you see the Imam? Many of them will have this vision of, he's going to come on a horse. He's going to be wearing Arab attire. He's got the nicest turban. Like, they have an image. He's going to come sword blazing. You know what I mean? That's their understanding of when my Imam, I've been told he's going to come. That's how he's going to come. Reality, is he going to come on a horse with a sword? Allahu A'lam. But that's what you're looking for. The understanding of Ghayba is very, very different. When we're trying to prepare ourselves for the Imam coming, and when we do Du'a al-Ahad, and we do all the Ad'iyah, Nudba in the morning, everything that we do is to prepare for him, but how can we recognize him?
Yeah.
That's the image that we have of him. That's on a horse, he's going to do. We could come across him in our daily lives.
This kind of ties into the understanding of the hadith about the one who does not have the knowledge of the Imam dies the death of ignorance. Because if we talk about the whole point of the Raj'ah is to be raised amongst the Ansar of the Holy Imam, if you die a death without knowledge of the Imam, it surely is ignorance then, because you've died not with the hope that you'll then be raised amongst the Holy Imam. So you've died unknowing, and maybe even innocently ignorant or intentionally ignorant of what the Imam brings and who he comes with. So I think that's very interesting. In terms of the Ghayba itself, obviously we have so much, like you talked about the advent of Rasulullah, and I feel like the same thing, of course, like you mentioned, Sayyid, applies with the advent of the Dhuhr. The preparation for the Ummah, the house arrest of Imam al-Hadi and Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, meant that the community was getting there. The 4 Safara that came, the letter to Abu al-Hasan al-Samari 6 days before his death. These are all things which gradually prepared the Ummah, or at least the Shia, to understand that the Ghayba of the Imam is coming, and that, as he said in the letter, you should not appoint someone after you, and that now we will begin the Ghayba al-Kubra. Like, we've seen this, of course, in history. We've seen it, as you mentioned, with the story of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what I want to understand really is, in terms of the time of the Raj'ah, for us now living in the Ghayba, is there anything specific we can do? Because from my understanding, if you don't mind me saying, it sounds like there's a preference for the shuhada. I don't want to say it like that, but it sounds like the shuhada will be raised amongst, because to re-experience the mount, or to experience more.
So you're saying that, like I said, I brought one of the traditions that we have, that you could establish the fact that they are looked at to be of the shuhada, there are many people that have died in battle.
Yeah.
They haven't come for the right reasons. And we know that from Rasulullah's stories. Many times you come across, and the mothers would be like, you know, my son is shaheed, or Rasulullah says, no, the grave just squeezed him, such a squeeze. Yani there's depends. Some people came just to protect their caravan. Some people did it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So only Allah knows who's the true shaheed on that path. So knowing that could be a part of the people that returned.
I see.
Yeah, but he doesn't. His preference and his wording of the Imam doesn't say the shuhada. I said amongst those could very well potentially be the shuhada in accordance to the riwayah of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. Could be that they are part of it, but the preference was man mahadha al-iman mahdha, engulfed, personified iman.
Yeah,
and that could be absolutely anyone. You know, we pray that we are of those people, but that's a premise that he did give. So whomever Allah chooses to return to be part of that and bear witness to Allah's kingdom, bear witness to Allah's ability to establish justice and eradicate tyranny on the hands of the ma'sumin, you know. And like I said, because when you said it brings a new, you suggested it that it brings a new religion basically for civilization. There's a reason why in Du'a Nadwa we say وَيُحِقُّ الْحَقِّ.
Yeah.
When he comes, why does he have to showcase the truth? Because we're so far away. You know, كَيْفَ بِكُمْ, you know, how is it that it come a time when he says to one of his companions, إِذَا فَسَدَتْ نِسَاءَكُمْ وَفَسَقَ شَبَابُكُمْ وَلَمْ تَأْمُرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَلَمْ تَنْهُوا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. There will come a time, just to establish this, that your women and men will go astray, and you do not enjoin good and forbid evil. أو يكون ذلك يا رسول الله. Will there come a time, Rasulullah goes, شر من ذلك? Because there will come a time where you will enjoin evil and forbid good. Then he says, not just that, شر من ذلك. He goes, how is it that there come a time where you see good as evil and you see evil as good?
Yeah.
So when Imam Mahdi comes, يحق الحق, in the sense that in Rasulullah's last time, just like he came forward with the truth, the Abrahamic religions that were there that preceded, they were so far away from it that he has to, what's this new religion of yours?
Yeah.
Imam Hussein, when he came, because they're saying Allahu Akbar and they're killing the grandson. So he had to establish it again. Imam Mahdi, when he comes forward with the religion, يحق الحق means how much are we away that he has to come back and re-establish what truth is. That's how
deviated we've been.
Well, we'll perceive it as something new, but it's not really.
Yeah, it's just re-establishing the actual truth. So that's what our understanding should be, that when with Ghayba, it's such a lengthy discussion, but in Ghayba, our understanding has always been the Imam is away, he's waiting. He's in some traditions say Jazirat al-Khadra and whatever have you, and it all has different explanations. But when they give examples that the Imam is the inheritor of all those before him, someone's like, what's the comparison to it? Of the comparisons that he gives, which should re-establish this fact of what Ghayba means, is they say that he's very much compared to Nabi Allah Yusuf in his Ghayba. You know how many levels of Ghayba Yusuf had? The first level, his brothers, the first, because Ghayba means that they're concealed of either the person himself physically or the concealment of the person's rank or position. So in that fact, they were his brothers, they could see him physically, but concealed from them that he's a prophet. So because he was concealed, aspect of Ghayba, they went and tried to kill him.
I see.
They were concealed, even says Ghayabatul Jub, the second that he was physically concealed in the well. That, like, if they knew that he was a prophet, you think they would sell him to that man for that much? They'd get a lot more for a prophet. Do you know what I mean? So, and then he was concealed throughout. People never knew he was.
It's very true.
No one knew he was a prophet. But what did he do? He established. He guided people. He ran a whole nation. And then even his brothers came, they saw him physically, but they still didn't know him.
Subhanallah.
So when they say you have the comparison to the Imam,
Yusuf al-Zahra, one of the titles of our holy Imam.
So when you look at that and you begin to see that, yeah, there's a comparison, as Imam Sadiq says, from Yusuf in his Ghayba. The comparison isn't it? He says the Ghayba of our Imam is like that of Yusuf. Yusuf established, worked, prepared men that will be there in his reign, didn't he? In accordance to what we understand from the story of Yusuf, he prepared people to be in positions in his governance. This is likewise. When the Imam comes, people recognize, like, I know this person. I've come across him. He's helped me. He's guided me. Why? Because he's amongst us. He's amongst us. And there's many people that you come and you see, there's so many stories about people that have come across the Imam, but then they later on found out is the Imam, and they were always nearly in a state of they're doing something bad.
Yeah.
Always. So that gives us, as I give you an example. So we don't take, as an example, a person comes towards one of these mystics and he asks them for, as the story goes, something to do in order for him to see the Imam. He's a Sayyid, Imam of the Masjid. So the mystic gives him something of worship to do. He goes, inshallah, within the 8-month period, you'll be able to see the Imam. So he goes, performs. 8 months pass, 9 months, 10 months. Comes back to the mystic. He goes, Baba, Bismillah, you told me 8 months I'll see him. I still haven't seen my Imam. So he's like, all right, I'll tell you, but first tell me about an incident that happened in the wudu area of your mosque. So he's like, how'd you hear about that? He goes, no, we have our ways. So he goes, what? I mean, it's embarrassing. He goes, why is it embarrassing? Just tell me what happened. He goes, I'm the Imam of the Masjid, I'm a Sayyid, son of Rasulullah. We're in the area where everyone's making wudu and it's crowded. He goes, while we're in that area, a man comes from the outskirts, not very familiar face, spoke Arabic, and then he goes, he entered and he sat next to me, and I'm making my wudu. So he goes, I had a ring. He goes, that ring was on my little finger. So he goes to me, he looks at me, he goes, Sayyid, when you're making wudu, it looks a little tight. So either you move it to make wudu so for the water to pass, or when you make wudu, move it a little bit so the water can go through it. So he goes, I was outraged. A person comes outside my mosque, tells me how to run my mosque, how to perform my wudu. I'm the top guy here, So he took it as offense. So he says, how dare you? Got loud, got verbal. People started breaking it off. The guy was very polite, but he was like, I'm sorry, I just thought I'd give you a piece of advice. Then he left, never saw him again. He goes, as he's telling this scholar, the scholar has tears like running down his cheek. He goes, you saw your Imam, but not how you thought you'd see him.
Wow.
Everyone around you could possibly be the Imam. So knowing that I could at any time in my life cross paths with my Imam. At any time. Yeah. If you understand the concept of Ghayba from Yusuf, at any time I could cross the Imam, you should be like,
may you come face to face.
I should really watch how I talk, walk, look, speak.
Yeah.
At every moment of my life.
So true, yeah. Because normally when we think of Ghayba, I think generic, I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but I think we sort of imagine he's not here on this earth. He's in Ghayba somewhere in the heavens.
Yeah.
In the 7 heavens. And that's why I think we don't think of these things in our day-to-day lives, that we could come across the Imam one day, or whether be it in the mosque or be it in the marketplace, wherever we
That's true. That's true.
It can happen anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why, many reasons as why we don't build ma'rifah. Imam Sahab al-Asr was the man, is that, okay, he's there, we'll wait for his return, and we don't want nothing more. It's our fault that 100%. We don't know the Imam. We've failed in that relationship and that connection. And, that bond one needs to create with the Imam of his time. And I know we're speaking about Ghayba right now, but I just want to go back quickly to Raj'ah. Because the point I wanted to say is
got another question.
Yeah. And I think it's a question. And
I feel like you're going to contemplate over it tonight.
And I think it's going to relate to Ghayba now, in a way, you'll see. Is that, as you were giving up all these examples, the hadith, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the Quranic verses, a lot of things start to make sense in my head. One of them being is, for example, a ma'soom needs to bury another ma'soom, as well as the example of, those who inshallah, will be counted as from Ansar Imam Mahdi, will come back should they not be here during his return. A lot of things one by one. And then something was striking me, and I was like, when do I mention it? I think now is the right time. Is that
Bismillah.
we always hear of, أين طالب بدم مقتول بكربلاء. Like, that now makes sense to me.
Yeah.
If you're telling me Imam al-Hussein is going to come back, and Imam al-Mahdi Ajjallah Ta'ala Farajah will be here, and you're telling me some of the kuffar will be coming back
to revenge.
I think the equation is answered for me. And all of this is starting to fall in place. But I really want to know a bit more about this.
So, you know, they will come and kill the killers of Imam al-Hussein.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
So, you know, like if you take that, and that just establishes the fact that could it actually be them, and also whoever agrees with their principles, agrees with what they did, is fine with what occurred in Karbala. They are in the same, absolute same circle. But it does have that establishment if those evil people do come back.
Because a lot of people, you know, they belittle this. They're like, okay, you're saying Karbala happened, they're all dead, they're all buried, and let's say Imam does appear, come back. How's he going to take his star? How's he going to take it back? How's he going to take revenge?
Why is it that the flag that he comes with is the same flag of Abu Abdullah? Why? You know, the people that, you know, are going to fall by his sword.
And he says at the Kaaba, inshallah, when he returns, that I'm here to avenge the blood of my grandfather who was killed thirsty and Mazlum.
Ahsant.
You know, these are we always talk about, and we've had a lot in the last few weeks about the connection between Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Mahdi and what they share in common, and they are one and the same in values. Kind of going back to Ghayba as well, if you don't mind.
Sorry,
Because it's intertwined. So
it's very simple.
They go hand.
it's intertwined.
You mentioned about meeting the Imam.
Yes.
Okay. So we've, like you said, we've all grown up hearing stories.
Yes.
I've heard stories. One guy told me I met him in the elevator. One guy said I met him here. So obviously people say things. And
Sure.
Allahu A'lam, how many of them are true, and inshallah all of them are true, and people have interacted with the Holy Imam. Can anyone meet the Imam? B, is there any procedure or method or anything like that? Or do I have to unveil myself with the Imam? Do I have to reach a certain level to have access to the Holy Imam? And if I don't encounter the Holy Imam physically, during the period of Ghayba, how can I encounter the Holy Imam spiritually? Is there a way of my conversation with him? Am I able to connect with him in some other way, which I feel is like for like, or where he converse with me and I can converse with? Do you see what I mean? Or do I have to get to a certain stage?
So there's so much you can talk about there.
Yeah, sorry.
Because if someone comes and tells you there is a established way to meet the Imam,
Life becomes easy.
100%, everyone just does that, yeah?
Ashura, 40 days and all of these
Yeah,
things.
you have that visiting Masjid al-Sahla, 40 Tuesdays in a row, you know, you have these things that come, yeah?
Tawassul, jump Quran, all of these things, yeah.
So, they say, will you see him, like, do you think that he's going to come to you like that and say, there's no, I'll be like, yeah, by the way, I'm the Imam. No, you'll come across some way. If you are given, if you are given, then you will know after he's left, probably he's the Imam, in many of the stories that we do here. But one thing that is, from one of the stories is established, is the veils you put upon yourself. So, we have the well-established tradition from Rasulullah, if you were sinless, or if you did not go towards that which Allah forbade, that you'll be able to see angels and shake their hands.
Yeah.
Yes. So first establishment is we are veiling ourselves from the Imam through our actions. 1, 2 is obviously the Imam of your time. He hears you. He sees. You're the one that is from your end. You know, if anyone is your friend, you know, like if you have a friend that you don't talk to once a year, how close is he going to be to a friend that you speak to every single day? Very different.
Very true, very true.
Very different. Yeah. So you're establishing a connection with your Imam. You know, like you ask little questions, you know, like, do you wake up and say Salaam Alaikum? Do you sleep, you know, with Ayatul Kursi and gifting it to him? Do you ever pray 2 rak'at, you know, Qurbatan Allah, and gift it towards the Imam? Do you pray Sadaqah on his behalf for his protection? How often do you recite the Ahad? How often do you go towards places where Nudba is recited and jointly as a front, remember and cry over the fact that he's not here as of yet and we are not ready for him. So just little things, you know. I remember there was a scholar that said, you can see your imam everywhere. If you really think, you can see your imam everywhere. He goes, as an example, he said, we say that إني تارك فيكم الثقلين ما تمسكتم بهم لن تضلوا بعدي كتاب الله وعترتي. So he goes, if you understand they're one of the same, how often do you open the Quran and see Imam Mahdi in it? You want to establish your connection with the Imam and you haven't established your connection with the Quran? He says you can open the Quran and see Imam Mahdi in it. But how often do we do that? So you can build a connection, whether you see him physically or with the eye of your heart. It's two different discussions. Many of us focus with this physical eye that does no benefit, but if we see him with the eye of our heart, our dynamic on a daily basis is very different. Very, very different. You know, if someone really thinks about the fact that the eye that sees the haram that Allah forbade cannot see that which Allah has ordained as beautiful, this heart that contains evil cannot contain that which is, all of a sudden you begin to see that I can already see my path. You know, there's external prophets and there are internal prophets that guide us.
It's like yaqeen and basira.
You definitely will have it. You definitely will have it. But you need to start. And you come, he'll go, he'll come.
That recognition of the Imam, you'd imagine, then qualifies, inshallah, qualifies us to be amongst those who are worthy of being raised with the Imam.
Ya Allah.
The yearning to be alongside him, the yearning to do everything in his way is an act of loyalty. Am I doing this job because I believe it will be in service to the Holy Imam? Am I raising my children in the way they will be in service to the Holy Imam? If my whole perspective on life and my daily actions and my vision for the future, the way I family plan and everything, if it's all with the Imam as a primary objective, his success, his service, like everything for him as a primary objective, you then live your life, and like we said, you die a death of knowledge of the Imam, and then you are worthy of being called to return to him, because the Imam will want people who live their lives in service to him, who will give everything for him, who will go where he says go and do what he says to him. So these are very important things for us to realize. I think you've like,
you remember
opened
have you ever, I've had Christian friends, and I still remember this, and I remember I was about maybe 14, 15 when it kind of clicked to me. And I had this friend that used to wear a wristband saying, it literally had WWJD. And I was like, is it some company that I don't know of? You know, sometimes I feel like I live under a rock with all these new crazes every 2 seconds coming out, yeah? But, you know, at 14, 15, you're like, WWJD, what does that mean?
Could be a band, yeah.
Literally, you know, like, and he's like, no, we wear this. It's part of our faith. I'm like, what faith is that? He goes, I'm Christian. He goes, I'm like, you know, for me, it's he's like, it literally stands for, what would Jesus do? So I'm like,
that's nice.
I was like, we need that. Yeah, like, I was like, what would Imam Mahdi do?
Yeah.
So can you imagine we had that? What would Imam Mahdi do? Like, if you really live your life, I mean, I remember giving a lecture a few years back, and I gave the example. I said, if you want to see that what you need to perfect within your life, imagine for 24 hours, Imam Mahdi is with you. Yeah. Just for 24 hours. He knocks the door on your house. Are you even going to open it for him? This is your Imam. Are you even ready to open your own house for the Imam? Let alone if he tells you, you know, let's go towards your work. Let's see what you do in your work. Let's go towards the uni. Let's see how you act around people. Give me your phone. Let me come and have a look at your messaging.
Yeah.
Snapchat or TikTok, whatever have you. So if you're not prepared to give that phone or take him on a walk the same alleyway that you go or the same places that you go, or whatever, restaurants, cafes, wherever you usually go in your daily practices, how you usually speak to people, would you still speak about it in the same manner if the Imam was right next to you? just being conscious of that should allow us to really understand where our faults lie and what to perfect. Just that, I think, by itself, just that understanding that Imam, we know that he sees and hears. We know that. But how much do we just put that one and one together? I mean, like, if he's here, what would I do differently?
Yeah. I think it's been, like I said, eye-opening lesson for us, both in terms of the Raj'ah, but I think it's important. I like the fact that we started on that, because like you said before the podcast, it will allow us to understand what qualities we need to have now during the Ghayba of the Holy Imam to then be amongst those worthy. Do you see what I mean? Because then it's like now we have something tangible to say, because a lot of people will think, oh, I'm praying for the Imam's Zuhur. What's the likelihood mathematically that in my 60 forthcoming years, or inshallah Allah gives us that long life, that the Imam will return if he's not been here for 1100? People will say that on a mathematical basis, but of course things are much deeper than that, and there's always opportunity for us. So we have that goal, inshallah, to be amongst the Ansar of the Imam, if it's in our life now or even after we die, to be raised amongst the Ansar of the Holy Imam, and to be the servant of the servants, as Sayyid Ali says, of the Holy Imam, alayhi salam. So yeah, thank you.
You know, sorry, I know you are ending the point there. It makes you think, like, if we say we are lovers of Imam al-Hussein, wouldn't we want to see Imam Hussein again? Honestly, in this world, wouldn't we want to be beside him?
Can you imagine?
Talk to him.
Could you look at the Imam and not tremble? Like, you know, that's another.
We can achieve that,
but
if we,
you know, like, you know, sometimes you think to yourself, you're like, I know that Imam can see right through me.
Yeah.
You know, like, am I at a stage where I'm happy with what the Imam sees? Or will I actually turn away and be like, no, I've done that much that the Imam already knows. I can't look at him with these two eyes that I've seen other things, or with this heart that has other desires besides Allah, because he sees. So, like, just that, thinking the fact that you're going to be in the presence of an Imam that knows, that really, like, strikes me as, will I be, if inshallah we are ever given a chance,
inshallah,
will we be prepared for that gaze? Tarana wa narak.
Mata tarana.
Say what last question from me.
Bismillah.
What source of information would you direct people to for further research, or even for Ghayba? Is there anything which you found has been very useful?
So
Tips or life hacks?
Sure, Raj'ah a little bit more delicate. Yeah, this is the foundations.
Or even in terms of connection with the Imam.
Look, because you can go different alleyways, yeah? So the first alleyway, people will be like, I want to know, all I want to know is about the Imam in the very surface way. You know, how does he look? How tall is he? The mole, is it in the right cheek or the left cheek? We have white hair, black hair. You know, what does Israeli al-Qama mean? You know, like, what does that mean? Is he going to come with a turban? Is he actually going to come with the horses? You know, these little things that often elude people away from the actual core, you know, understanding that you should have of the Imam. You
It's
know?
like we only focus on the signs.
Yeah,
Sign of the
yeah,
return.
exactly. You know, these are minor signs. You know, we try to add them up. Like, yeah, he's, you know, this person's coming from Yemen, and this is Khurasani, and this is, you know, so. But are you ready? Like, okay, you can see the signs. It might be going in that direction, but are you ready for when he comes? How do we know? There were Muslims on either side of Karbala.
Allahu Akbar.
There were Muslims on either side. There were those that had, both of them, by the way, Umar ibn Sa'ad as an example, and Hur, both had governorships promised to them.
Yeah.
Both. Ray and Khurasan were both promised. They both had men under them. They both had desire thrown in front of them. You know, how do I know that when a desire comes in front of me, I won't slip? Yusuf had, if many of the men would be in front in that situation, many of them would slip. We read Yusuf's like, yeah, of course that's what he does, but you go towards the imams, and a sin is mentioned in front of them. It says, we seek refuge in Allah. You know, for us, like, no way, you know, like, me do that sin or do that. The Imam saying, we seek refuge in Allah, you know, and they're infallible. So the perfection of oneself, that's the reason why it's the greatest jihad. There's multitude of reasons of why it's the greatest jihad. you know, and whomever knows themselves can perfect themselves.
Yeah.
So once you identify the faults within you, you know, you can have people around you that can identify it for you. You know, that's why we say a believer is like a mirror, because you can see your faults through them that you may not see.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with people that can guide you towards the Imam, and not surrounding yourself with people that take you the other way. So there's a lot to yourself, your circles that you create, your job, you know, eliminating the environmental factors. There's just sin. Shaitan's just in every absolute angle. But just like you can see that shaitan in every angle, you have an opportunity to fight against him if you are able to see through the eye of your heart the Imam at every position as well.
Inshallah. God willing, we have that ma'arafah.
Inshallah.
We can build on that relationship and that connection with our living, breathing, listening, talking Imam.
That is in and around us.
It's our fault. If you know, similarly we say Karbala and Imam Hussein, you know, being Safa, like Ya laytana kunna ma'akum. Like we have an opportunity to do that with Imam al-Mahdi.
Very true.
Right? Yes, very true. But it makes you wonder, it makes you think, you know, you said so much nice points throughout, from the beginning until now, throughout the discussion. It's just making me think, how can I see Imam al-Mahdi if my eye sees that which is unlawful, for example? How can I have a conversation with my Imam if this tongue utters that which displeases Allah? It's down to us, and it's up to us. If we want that, we have to work for it. This life is not easy, but it doesn't mean we don't work for it.
Absolutely,
Just because, okay, we go to work, we're good with family, blah, 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 everything's going to be okay. No, we have to do more. We have to,
where's the struggle if everything's easy?
That's the whole point.
Where's the true test?
This life is a test, and this is part of it.
This is our mission statement. Show other Muslims who perhaps don't have that vision, that goal, that mission, that end objective. Do you know what I mean? We are Shia. Like, we are Shia of the Mahdi. We know what our goal is, who we're working for, what we're aiming for, or at least we know what it should be.
But wallah, this wilayah, we can't talk about it enough, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, there was this discussions I was listening to, and I'm just like, you know, we have this tradition that says, if people actually contemplated over the story of Adam and Iblis, you know, we wouldn't have all these conflicts.
Wow.
Because I ask you a question, we hear the story of Iblis and Adam, Can you say Iblis didn't worship? No one worships as much as Iblis. 6,000 years, Imam Ali says, he doesn't know from this world or from the 6,000 years of that world. Yeah? So he has tawheed. But when he says submit to Adam, just like in Ghadir Khum, Allah says submit towards Ali ibn Abi Talib.
Arrogance.
Refused imamah. They refused imamah. So just little things there, you know, like.
Well, we could easily, like you said, Sayed,
the lessons are all there.
You're right. And we can reject the imamah of our imam. We may well be doing that, unfortunately, passively at the moment, rejecting the imamah of Imam Mahdi. You know, if we don't take heed and day to day kind of take it forward. Ahsantum Sayyidina, thank you so much
Habibi,
for everything, for the knowledge we gained from you, not just today, but obviously in the last
Habibi, I've gained just as much from you as you have from me. Habibi, no, much.
SubhanAllah, every episode with you, Sayyid, there's a lot to take in.
It's a what, sorry?
It feels like home.
Oh, okay, Habibi, Habibi.
Not about what I truly want to say, like every time we've had a conversation with you, even off the podcast, Sayyid, it's like you leave like a good impact where I'm not just going to say, it's knowledge, you know, you're very relatable, and there's like a unique sense of delivery that you have that I can understand it.
Habibi.
Like, I'm not saying
I feel like we have
I am genuinely not saying
I feel like we're going to have discussion after them.
You broke down one of the most complex theories on the After Maghrib podcast. It's such a, alhamdulillah, such a digestible
as long as inshallah, so we're going to know from the comments, but it made sense, you know what I mean? Inshallah.
It did to us.
Maybe we'll do a follow-up one. No, Raj'ah 2.0.
Yeah, there's also a lot of good, useful information on islam.org for those who want the deeper learnings, but also obviously it's very, what's the word? It's like an overview of the different opinions. And of course, like the Sayyid mentioned at the beginning, this is something which is highly technical, and therefore it's like, you know, it's rarely spoken about, I think, on a mass scale, because of that reason. But it's very important for us to know about it and also work towards it as part of our time now in the Ghayba.
Inshallah.
So, thank you
Habibi,
so much.
thank you for having me.
Everything. Inshallah, we will see you again
In the next episode.
whenever that is. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Habibi Sayyid, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and of course, these are good memories we have, as well as I know the audience, the listeners, and the viewers. They learn a lot, and it's something that we can take on throughout our lives. Again, I'm going to say another point. Just because you're here is not why I'm saying it. But even when we have a discussion here, and after Maghrib, we've referenced you so many times in our discussions, whether we link it back to previous episodes we have or conversations we have outside of the podcast with yourself.
Habibi.
It's I don't know what to say. I just want to say, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the tawfiq,
Habibi.
the opportunity to continue to serve this beautiful religion, this amazing faith we have. And if we have more people like Sayed Abdullah al Nakeeb, that many of us can be inshallah inspired to know the Imam of our time and to have ma'rifah with the Ahl al-Bayt, Rasulullah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Ahsantum. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure to stay tuned for next week, and inshallah we will be back then. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.